Welcome to Science Investigators, the show where our investigation team answer all your science-related questions. This week, we're in Springdale National School. Coming up on today's show, it's field trip time. We'll learn about starfish and see fighting crabs as our scientists visit Portmarnock to learn about ecosystems. Now, let's meet our investigators.
My name is Zara and I am 12 years old and I love art and science.
My name's Rojan and I'm 12 years old and I like cricket and science.
Hey, my name is Hannah. I'm 11 years old. I like music, art and science.
My name's Tassie and I'm 12 years old. I love to do ballet, art and science.
And we are the Science Investigators.
I wonder what the question of the day is.
You never know.
Let's find out. What is an ecosystem?
Maybe it has something to do with animals.
Or reaction of animals or even rock pools.
I have an idea. Why don't we ask the class if they know?
That's a good idea.
Let's go.
Let's go to Portmarnock and learn more about the ecosystem.
Hello, my name is Lorraine. I'm from the Irish Wildlife Trust and I'm passionate about the marine environment. I also love travel and I particularly love seals. Hi everyone, so my name's Lorraine.
Hi, Lorraine.
I've always loved animals and I love working with wildlife, and I feel passionately about actually trying to preserve the wildlife that we have here in Ireland. So that's why I'm working with the Irish Wildlife Trust. We go out and we advocate for wildlife in Ireland.
What is an ecosystem?
An ecosystem is an area where animals all live together, different types of animals. An ecosystem is the ecological system in which those animals live, how they interact with one another, how they interact with the biotic environment, which is the living things in that environment, and also the abiotic. So abiotic is the likes of the rocks, the water, the sun. So that's what an ecosystem is.
Why should we care about the ecosystem?
Ecosystems are really, really important. It's how we actually live. They're our life support system. So our water that we drink, the oxygen that we breathe, the food that we eat comes from ecosystems. If these ecosystems were to collapse, then that would actually reduce the food that's available to us. To help you identify the species, this is an information chart. So there's a photograph and the name of the animal that we'll be looking for. So we'll now head out into the rock pools and actually look for these and see if we can find them, and we'll talk more about them. On the back of it as well, I've got the plants of the seashore, which is all of the seaweeds that we'll find today. So grab a pack, grab a bucket, and let's go explore. The ecosystems here have an impact on ecosystems further out at sea and vice versa. So a lot of the fish species and things that we live on are all impacted by the ecosystems here. So it's important to preserve them and try and keep the level of biodiversity. So biodiversity is biological diversity, and it covers every living thing on Earth. So all of the little microbes, the bacteria, human beings, the big blue whale, everything. And it's really important to try and preserve as much of that diversity as we can. Hopefully we might find little hermit crabs as well. These are the guys that don't produce their own shell, they take other shells. So as they grow, they need bigger and bigger shells. Also as well, we didn't talk about pollution. We actually discovered some fishing wire, glass, things like that. Unfortunately, plastics and plastic in the marine environment for pollution is actually a really, really big problem. And try and recycle the plastic wherever you can, because what's happening is our plastics are actually ending up in the marine environment and are actually infecting a lot of animals. Fishing nets and things like that and bits of plastic are actually causing a lot of injuries to animals as well.
Coming up on Science Investigators, we learn more about starfish
And the great thing about starfishes are they can regrow their limbs.
and fighting crabs.
But that's a good example of competition between species.
But now, each week on Science Investigators, we're going to visit Springdale National School, where the 6th class students have been given a very special challenge.
Can you build me a rocket, please?
The rockets wouldn't launch. It was very sad when the rockets didn't work, because I thought it would have worked since we tried a whole new idea and wrapped it up. Where's the tissue?
Well, Craig was shaking the bottle and it was like he shaked it too much and it popped in his hand and some of it splattered over me and it went in my hair and over my shoulder. And if Craig was doing it again, I'd advise him not to shake it as much.
He shook it too quick and it wasn't.
We are disappointed, but maybe it will work this time.
Cheer up, scientists. Remember, science is all about researching and trying things out. I'm sure you'll be able to get it to work next time. So far on Science Investigators, we've heard our question.
What is an ecosystem?
We've met Lorraine from the Irish Wildlife Trust.
And I feel passionately about actually trying to preserve the wildlife that we have here in Ireland.
And our scientists have been exploring ecosystems. Now, let's return to Portmarnock for our final part of today's episode.
So what we've got here is a starfish, and you can see here one of his limbs have fall off. And the great thing about starfishes are they can regrow their limbs. So on the other side of his body, you've got his moving tentacles that is something that it's easier for him to move, and it can also help his food to get around to his mouth, and there's his mouth as well. I think the starfish is really cool, and the way they can regenerate their limbs and everything.
This is the hermit crab, and the hermit crab can't actually make its own shell, and it has to take other animals' shell. And the back of the body is soft, so it can go into its shell. And the claws are adapted so it can defend itself when it's in its shell.
So these are 2 hermit crabs. Normally what happens, if a hermit crab will come across a smaller hermit crab that has a bigger shell and he wants that shell, he'll then fight him. But that's a good example of competition between species that are actually fighting. It's like us, we go into Tesco's and there's only one Mars bar left on the shelf. And there's 5 of us and we all fancy a Mars bar that day. We'll all run as fast as we can and the fastest runner will get that Mars bar. It's very similar to all the animals living within a system. We have farming practices now, we can go into shops and buy things, but years ago when we were hunter-gatherers, we had to compete with other tribes, other clans for food and for resources, and it's just the same for the animals today.
This is a shore crab. It has a serrated edge, that's how you can identify it. And it has 2 claws at the front, one's bigger than the other, and they use this for fighting. They also have their swimming legs at the back, and they also use their 2 front claws to get food.
This is a sea anemone, and when it's in water its tentacles go out, but then when you take it out of the water its tentacles go in. And then it's hard to see them, but there's little blue dots and there's stingers to protect it.
Thanks Lorraine, we have successfully learned about ecosystems.
Next time on Science Investigators, we're in Glasnevin Educate Together National School, where our scientists are all about eggs. We attempt to answer life's ultimate question: can you walk on eggs? See you next time.